Hi, everybody. How's everyone doing? This is Meena from Destination CEO, and thank you all for joining in and following me. Last week, it was quite emotional. It was emotional because I started talking about my feelings and reliving my story. And, I promised you all that I'll be uncovering a chapter from my book. And, each chapter has so many stories that I don't know how long it will take us to go through it. But at least the unpublished book is coming out, right? In light of everything that's going on, it just hit me so hard. The the brutality, the pain. I posted a video on LinkedIn, and after a few hours I took it out because I felt I'm not sure if I want to share this. But the beauty about live shows is that you're all connecting with me right now, right here. And I'm going to say it. And it's like the big elephant in the room. I noticed that there are so many leaders posting about what's happening in the US, and they're getting trolled for it, being told that this is not the platform for it. This is the platform for it. We have the privilege of this platform. This platform is the social media. When I heard about George Floyd's death, the murder, that experience that I went through with Islamophobia became so real. Well, let me backtrack a little bit. I was discriminated because I had an accent. And if you guys looked at my post that I posted just a few minutes before inviting you to come to the show, it was so difficult. I had to leave that job. And I was discriminated further. And when you guys reached out to me after last week and said when you heard my story, when you were here on Mondays with Meena last week, you resonated with how I feel. So I know that many of you are in call centers, working that survival job, just trying to put food on the table, just trying to make ends meet. And trust me, I know how that feels. I can tell you that the day 9/11 happened, I was not really aware of it. I dropped my kids, who were 5 years and younger, to the daycare, walked to work, and everybody was rushing to the boardroom and saying, there was this chaos in the office, and I didn't know. The boardroom had a TV, and, and we saw the second plane fly into the World Trade Center. And I panicked because my brother-in-law works in that building. So the first thing I did was call my cousin to check if he was okay. They say miracles happen. He's one of those people that is always there at work before time. And that day, he had to take an urgent call. He was really annoyed that that call came that early in the morning and he was delayed at work. He was in the train, getting off the train to walk into his office in the World Trade Center when the plane flew in. Right after that, my husband lost a job. But that day when that happened, a friend of mine who wears a turban or used to wear a turban, just came to speak with me and walked me to the daycare. When we were walking towards the daycare, this is downtown Mississauga, right by Square One. I was walking to the YMCA daycare. A car sped by me and threw tomatoes at us, screaming racial slurs. It was painful. When coronavirus hit, all of us started worrying about finances and jobs and, the fact that we were job searching and we didn't have Canadian experience and we were discriminated because we didn't have Canadian experience. And the thought, when I was fighting with pneumonia and they were not giving me antibiotics because they thought it was, if I went to the hospital, I'd be diagnosed with COVID, because it's similar, if not same, um, symptoms. The one thing I thought about was, how are my Asian brothers and sisters doing? What are they feeling right now? Last week, all of those attacks on the Asian community that was happening in Vancouver, all over. You guys are reaching out to me about your fears of being discriminated due to no Canadian experience, due to no relevant experience, the fact that you're a new graduate and you're struggling with it. There is a lot worse that's happening. But there are a lot of leaders, and that's where the hope is. There are a lot of phenomenal leaders that are making a difference, that are standing up, that are voicing, that are doing things in the world, in the realm of diversity and inclusion, to make things happen so that those discriminations that happened before do not happen now. Yeah, there are quite a few of us. You need to just find us, right? But to live in that space that I don't have this and I don't have that, well, you don't. How are you going to gain it? How are you going to show what you have? Why is the focus on what you don't more important than what you do? I want to bring in my guest for the day, my dear, dear friend, Dean Delpeache, who is a huge advocate in the Black community, who is a change maker. I respect him to the bottom of my heart. I remember the first time I met him and the way he treated everybody around him and the way he welcomed everybody in a workshop where there were more than 100 people. That was just mind-blowing. How can somebody at that level be so humble? Today, we are inspired by those kinds of people. When we talk about Martin Luther King, we talk about his struggles. When we talk about Gandhi, we talk about his struggles and what his sacrifices and their sacrifices made. Mother Teresa. Let's not look at what we don't have. Let's focus on what we have. I have 3 tips that I'm going to give you at the end of this show if you keep up with me. Because yes, it is about jobs. It is about starting your Canadian career journey. But more than that, it's about you. It's about how you're dealing with. Are you physically, emotionally, and mentally ready? So without further ado, let's welcome my dear friend, Dean Delpeache, on the show. Hey, Dean,
Hey,
how are you?
hey, Meena, I'm doing well, and hello, everyone. Such a pleasure to be on the broadcast, and I really appreciate your kind words towards me and all of your sentiments, but I also appreciate how you're feeling, and just want to acknowledge that and how important that is to our discussion. So, really appreciate you, Meena. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me. I know it was a very last minute decision, but it's gotten so real. It's gotten so real for me.
Hmm.
And it's gotten so real for everybody. Tell me, how are you feeling?
Yeah, it was funny. Um, you know, Obviously over the last couple of weeks we've been seeing quite a bit of different incidences, but when Monday hit with the the murder of George Floyd, plus the situation with Amy Cooper in Central Park, you know when I saw it, it was almost and if I could be completely transparent, when I saw it,
Please.
obviously it's a gross injustice that occurred, but it was almost surreal in the sense that oh, well, it's just happened again kind of type thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like like the emotion of it kind of, because you've seen it. We saw a couple weeks ago, Ahmed Aubrey, right? So it's almost like the emotion of it. And so you knew it was there, you knew it was wrong, you knew those things, but it wasn't until Friday. I was speaking on a webinar with some DEI professionals,
Mm-hmm.
and they had asked me how, we put this elephant in the room. We asked, for people to speak up on how they're feeling, and as I began to talk, Meena, it was so strange. It was almost like all of these repressed emotions started to really come to the forefront. And repressed meaning, I think I've repressed so many things in the sake of Canadianism and professionalism and all of those types of things, that that it all started coming up, and so to say how I am, I'm okay, yes, but I feel like, this whole weekend I've spent examining my own silence and realizing how important it is to speak up, continue the discussion, but at the same time, do my best in this era for
Yeah.
me to affect change. And that's kind of where I'm mentally at right now.
And you've always been doing that, be it for the Black community, be it for new grads, be it for any job seeker. You're one of those people that is not looking at a person and judging it based on a bias that you have. Or you may have. I don't think you have any.
Yeah.
And you're really recognizing their talent, right? And everybody's coming to you, and people that are getting attached with you, people like myself, we're getting attached to you because of that passion, that that pain that we may have gone through, and seeing that you're out there making a difference.
Mm. Well, I appreciate those sentiments, Mina. I really do. I really do. And I think, yourself as well. And I think that's why we connect so well and have such great chemistry. It's because I think we want to see change, and we're tired of just talking about it. We want to use the platforms like this, where we can communicate, real change, to the masses. And so I'm very appreciative to be a part of this.
Thank you. And I want to tell you all those audiences that are watching us and that are listening to us, talk to us how you're feeling. That's why we're here. Today, we're going to have a 1 hour show just so that we can talk to you and give you support and perhaps some guidance, whatever we can, to help you move forward from where you are to where you can be. Dean, talk to them.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if I was to kind of contextualize a lot of this, discussion, because I know, the goal was really to talk about discrimination and race in the workplace. And I think, we need to have an open and frank conversation of, the state of things. So, for example, as much as, let's say, these issues that happened last week, or issues that you faced in the past, um, or um, various things that happen in various marginalized communities, I think number one, we must understand that this is a global problem. And then I think number two, coming really close to home, it's not just an American problem, it's a North American problem. And as much as the recent occurrences may have specifically happened in the United States, we have to understand that we are living in a structure, right? And for those that are just joining, although we're talking in general right now, I think we're going to come down to the workplace, but we're living in a structure that is designed, and this is, I think, a really important thing. It's
Mhm.
designed for the dominant race. That's just the honest truth. We're living in a structure that's designed for it. So let me give you an example, and let's bring it close to home to work.
Let's do it.
You know, when people come from other countries, China, India, wherever, right? A lot of times they might have, you know, the name that they were born with,
Yeah.
right? But when they come to North America or to a European-centric country, they feel this desire to change their name. Why? So that it sounds closer to what is accepted within the dominant area, right?
Yeah.
And because of that, they prefer to apply to, when they are applying to a position, they want on their resume for it to say John so and so, right? Or whatever, versus using their name. Because we're living in a system, and that's what's really understand. That's why we talk about systemic racism or discrimination, because we're living in a system that is designed to be welcoming to a group of people, and what other people are trying to do is trying to conform to the system. You know, another really interesting thing is I was thinking about food.
Yes.
You know, people are ashamed in their workplaces to bring their ethnic food. And they're ashamed because maybe their ethnic food involves various spices. And because I know within my mom is Jamaican, I know within our culture we use various spices that are not, typically used in the traditional Canadian home, if we could even say that.
Yeah.
And we're afraid to bring that to work because in case the smell might make others angry, right? So, but the thing of these little minute issues, or where we get into the form of microaggressions, is that it's catering to this dominant superiority that we're trying to conform to. And so the work of anti-racism now is really to not just reverse, but to literally break these things that are happening in our institutional structures, primarily within work, right? As we're talking about it today.
Yeah.
Because work or our work settings and our work areas are economic drivers. And we know that money, especially in this country, is power.
Mm-hmm.
And the person or the people or the group with that power, right, control those things, you know. So I feel like the role now of us as advocates, if you even want to use the term social activists in that sense, you know, I know people don't like those terms because they like activists because they think that you're violent or whatever, but we're not looking at it like from that perspective. We're looking at how we make change now in the workplace is it starts with these types of conversations and acknowledging, right? So I'll pause there because I know it's a discussion, but I think that people need to understand where this comes from, right? This is rooted in history. This is rooted in history and coming up to today. It's not something we just embarked on yesterday, right?
No, and even if we look back in our own cultures, right? Even in our own cultures, that famous saying, when in Rome, live like Romans. Why did that come into place? Why is there that importance that we need to be light-skinned? Why is that those biases that certain types of clothes make certain hierarchies and cultures? And then we come into Rome or we come to Canada and we don't want to be treated like that when we did the same thing, right? So it's a, when we're talking about this corona pandemic, it's more than that. This pandemic is about recognizing our true values and coming together and engaging in these conversations. So if when we had these biases and we were doing that on others, and we reflect it's happening to us because we encouraged it where we were in our places.
Mm-hmm.
When I was younger, I was really dark. And I come from a family of very light-skinned people, to the point where my family, my brother was really light-skinned. They used to call us salt and pepper. I was pepper. My grandmother and my mom used to use all these different kinds of pastes to lighten my skin. Why? Why that? Anyways. I can go into the whys and the whats and that, but at the end of the day, every single one of us has been affected. Every single one of us wants to see a change. We want to talk about how we're feeling. We want to be able to move forward and engage everybody. The sweetest thing is when we say, oh, a white person's talking for a person of color, right? Why are we looking at the color? It's ingrained in us almost. But if we would just put the color aside and we talk about who we are as humans, when Corona happened and the entire community came together, I read this beautiful poem written by one of my friend's son, and he said that in the poem, and I don't really remember the words, but the gist of it was that he hopes that this pandemic, how it's brought humanity together, that stays. Corona goes, but that humanity, those values stay. And what's happened with the whole pandemic is that it's brought out so much pain, so much discrimination, so much suffering. It's affecting people's mental health. It's affecting people's emotions to drive them to things that they would never ever dream of. Right. So the conversations on, I'm loving the fact that we're getting comments already and we're getting questions. I do want to look at this, to start with the conversation. Simran says she's feeling so bad and angry that we're living in a society where color matters more than our life. Why people forget that everybody is same and nobody is above or below. Yeah. Humanity, but Corona brought humanity out and brought all of us together. But then these things are.
I think I can, if you don't mind me saying, let me reflect on that.
Please.
Because obviously, even though these situations are happening, we're still in the midst of a pandemic. I think coronavirus really showed us that, in a disease that's invisible can affect anybody. It doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, black, white. It doesn't matter who you are. It's from Asia all the way to North America. I think that's what Corona did. But it exposed discrimination in healthcare. It exposed discrimination in how people are treated when it comes. So it exposed a lot. And to Simran's point, I mean, we are living in a society, but the truth is this, and I want to state this: color matters, and I'm going to tell you why color matters. It's not necessarily looking at just the color of your skin. We're talking about what comes with that. I identify as a black male, right? My skin is darker, yes, and that's a part of who I am, and there's nothing wrong with that. Plus, I have a culture behind me that that deals with that. The reason why color matters is from the perspective that if we don't acknowledge these things, if we don't acknowledge that there's a caste system, if we don't acknowledge that there's these things, that we're never going to address it. So I feel like a lot of these things happening since COVID, since all these incidents, not just in the US, but even around the world. There's been a lot of anti-Asian discrimination. There's been a lot of discrimination in everything. I think what it's doing is it's bringing us to the forefront where we're acknowledging it. And I think that's powerful, because if you don't acknowledge it, then it's not, then you're still not doing it. So I'm going to give you an example. Many people heard about the whole Amy Cooper situation, where she basically was in Central Park. She had her dog off a leash. A black man was bird watching. Having a dog off the leash is wrong. You're not supposed to do that. He just asked, can you put the dog on the leash? She basically got angry and thought she was entitled enough to call the police, say an African American man is, harassing me and blah, 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 and whatever. And in the end, after it was all over, her thing was, she said that she's not racist. Okay. So you just commit an act that shows your how you approach a situation, but you're saying you're not racist. So that's an issue though, because that's basically saying that she's not acknowledging. And there are many people, okay, that are around the world that are exactly like that. They are comfortable, she was comfortable enough in public, but they're comfortable enough in private to say so many different things, right? About other race and cultures and stuff like that. But then after, they'll still say, I'm not racist. So what's happened though, that's good, is that people are coming to the forefront acknowledging here's an issue. If you read through your LinkedIn feed, many leaders are saying, this is an issue and it's wrong and, blah, 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 and whatnot. So I think that's a positive thing. That's a good thing that we're talking about and we're keeping it. As much as I'm not one for violent protests, I see why it's present. Because if you do peaceful protests all the time and nothing happens, well, then people are going to start changing their methodology. I get all of that. Because the show concentrates especially on people that are looking for careers and searching for careers, it's our work now to break down that power struggle within the workforce. And when it comes to acknowledging, and again, I don't want to talk too long because I know you have comments, I have comments, but if you don't mind me saying, and it's not a shameless plug, I actually am saying this from my heart. This weekend made me realize why I love the company I work for. And the reason is because, yesterday, we sent out our monthly newsletter that we send out on a regular basis that talks about business updates. But our CEO, James Novak, he said, today I'm not going to talk about a business update. He acknowledged what was happening in the community and basically said, listen, I stand against racism and I stand for equality and equity and things of that nature. And I'm only paraphrasing what he said, but that made me as a employee feel like, wow, I feel like I'm working for, I've always said I'm working for the right place, but now I feel as though it's important. And I actually messaged him and said, thank you so much, for doing that. And, immediately, this is Sunday evening, he's replying saying, listen, I've been thinking about you a lot. And, I just want you to know, even though I don't know exactly how you feel, I want you to know I'm here for you. And all of these different things that he was messaging me. And I think if there's any employers on the phone, any managers on the phone, any leaders on the phone, you need to reach out, especially during this time, to your Black employees, but especially to your employees of color, and really, really send out something that makes you say, I acknowledge what's happening. It's wrong. We need to stand up and break these systems that are against people. So that's why this conversation or the comments that I've been seeing here, they're so important that we should be acknowledging this.
Thanks, Dean. That's really powerful. In literally every aspect of life, right? The acknowledgement is the first step towards moving forward. Tayo, Tayo's here, and I call him, it's Omo Tayo, but we call him Tayo. He's a grad of mine. Missed you, Tayo. Been long. Tayo says that he's really angry and upset for the past couple of days, and he could barely do anything without seeing a replay of the murder in mind. So demoralizing. My love, I know. Trust me, it's been very disturbing for me too. And yesterday, Bijusina and I were like really late talking about how painful this is. When the riots are happening and the curfews happening all over US, this is all the pain and the hurt and the oppression that we've been through, and it's just coming out. Some places positively, some places negatively, but it's coming out.
Absolutely.
Dean, do you want to say something to Tayo?
Yeah, I mean, Tayo, I share your hurt, and I share the hurt and feelings of many people that are on the call. I do share it. And I think the key thing is, sharing is important, expression is important, being real, being authentic, being honest is very, 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 very important. But and with that, excuse me, we have to make a change. We've got to make a difference. Like we cannot just. So my whole point, especially being on this call today, is we have to make a difference. And I think where our change, we might not necessarily be the person in the government making the change, but we got have the opportunity to make change in our work in the workforce. So we've got to take all of our feelings and translate them to how we make systemic changes within in the space that we're called to, which we're talking and dealing with careers, and so again, Teo, I acknowledge your point, and I just want you to know that we're moving toward effective change.
And here's another one that he said. This is for you, Dean. Do you want to read it out?
Yeah, just to reaffirm your point, Dean Delpeache, a friend of mine, advised me to use my English name in my resume, not too comfortable with that. Yeah, I mean, listen, Meena has heard me speak many of times on this, and I'm going to say this on this call. These people that say things like, so you know where this comes from? So this comes from having this English name, comes from you being trying to conform to this system, right? And by us doing that, it may make you think that it's the right thing, but I strongly don't agree with it. And secondly, like the whole thought about Canadian experience. Oh, we don't hire anybody unless they have Canadian experience. That's just a bunch of nonsense. And that just gives what are we saying when we say that? When we say we don't hire anybody unless they have Canadian experience, that is literally saying that we don't hire anyone unless they conform to this dominant nature. That's crazy. Right? And that's what we're doing. We're giving racial undertones in what we say. All of these little microaggressions that sound like, okay, I understand. No, we don't understand anymore. Right? So that's what I mean, right? We need to break down these power structures. We need to speak about them. We need to acknowledge them and say that they're stupid. It's just the truth.
It is the truth.
It's just the truth.
And you know what? The minute we start conforming and we start doing what doesn't feel right, doesn't feel good to us, that's the minute we're giving in. Oh, we're not here to give in. We're here to stand up. We're here to showcase. We're here to show. And if you believe in yourself so much, why hide? And if somebody's going to discriminate you, is that really a company or the boss that you want to work for?
Not at all. No, you don't want to work for them. Not at all. There's millions of companies out there. If one tells you that, we don't hire for Canadian experience or whatever they say, I don't know, whatever the verbiage is, you don't need to work there.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Here, Ashfaq has another question. If we talk about discrimination in a broader sense, it's of all kinds, based on skin color, background, religion, etc. I've myself faced a lot of discrimination at work because of my religion. Yes, darling, I have too. And if we analyze the situation around the world, you will see that through Corona, Corona brought out a lot of good, it also brought out a lot of that venom that was inside people who believe in racism. Dean just said that, and we're talking about it because we want to acknowledge it. We want to make a difference. We want to make you feel that there is not just those that are discriminating you. There are thousands and millions of us that are advocating, that are promoting, that are making the little changes that we can in our own power to make a difference. And even if one person makes one change, with billions of people, there's a billion changes that have made in the positive direction. Right, Dean?
100%. And totally acknowledge Ashfaq, your comments. And discrimination does take many, many forms, especially in the workplace. And the important thing is to have people like yourself who can become leaders, who can make those changes. And I think I feel like I've committed my life to helping people. I've purposely committed my life to helping people because I believe that everyone deserves the opportunity to be in the workplace and contribute to the workplace, regardless of whoever you are. And I think it's important for employers and organizations to get to the point and realization that everyone can make a contribution that's valuable to your organization, regardless of whatever their background is. And every company needs to hire the most qualified candidates, but make sure you are hiring based upon skill and based upon qualification versus hiring because you just got a feeling, that's the right person. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
So let's talk about a few things that are changing in the world of diversity and inclusion. Some of the things that you've been involved in making sure that doesn't happen in your company. You're the senior talent manager, and and the whole advocacy piece that you've been involved with, Dean.
Yeah. So I mean, specifically at Fix, I can't speak about other organizations, but specifically at Fix, I'm very grateful that from our board of directors down, diversity is an extremely important initiative, and some of our top investors really employ diversity strategy as a part of their own organizations, and so it's really something that's mandated. And I think it's very, very important. And again, if there's any employers or leaders or CEOs on the call, I think it's really, really important for you to acknowledge the fact that leadership plays a key role. The voice of leadership plays a key role in affecting change within your organization. If we're going to break down any of these power structures, it's got to start there. And so with us now, we are in the final stages of finalizing our 3-year plan for diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equity. And tomorrow, as in fact, actually our CEO made sure to rush the meeting, but tomorrow, in fact, we're sitting down with our CEO to go through the final plan so we can implement these changes right away. And some of these changes, do you want me to speak to some?
Yes, please.
Yeah, maybe.
I'd love to know what's happening. And
Yeah. So some of the thoughts around this is, for example, and this is again, if anybody is an employer, you're recruitment, or you're in the work of diversity, on the call, these are some thoughts that you can consider for yourselves. But number one, looking at the way how diversity recruitment works, right? So there is a study that was published in the Harvard Business Review, and the study looked at how to effectively hire people from marginalized backgrounds, whether gender or race or whatever. And what they discovered is this. They discovered that if you have 4 people in a final interview stage, and let's say one of those people is a woman, or one of those people is a visible minority, but the rest are more from are basically white male heterosexual, then you will never hire marginalized people. But if you have at least 2, whether it's someone who's from a marginalized community, whether gender or whatever, but if you have at least 2, the chances of hiring someone who's from a marginalized background goes up by 50%. And if you have 3, it goes up by 67%. Right? Oh, wow. So one of the things that we are going to be implementing is a strategy similar to that, where we must have at least 2 people. So for example, from a gender perspective, we must have at least 2 females in the process, right? And what we'll do is we will track how we're doing with that theory. And if we find that it's working, continue, right? And if we don't, figure out something else new. Another thought that I have that it's not in the strategy, but I was thinking about it, is the reverse of that. Maybe having 2 hiring managers from marginalized backgrounds in your interview process,
Yes.
right? At least 2, right? Because you think about it, if you're in a hiring committee of 5 people, you have only 1 marginalized individual, right? In that hiring panel or in that hiring committee for that one person, it's always going to be that person's going to side with everyone else. But if you have at least 2, you have 2 voices, right?
Yes.
That can speak up. And so those are some things that we're looking at Fix to implement within our culture in order to drive that change. Do you want me to keep going, or should I stop there?
No, please keep going, because I think the next question is around, new grads. So I think
Sure.
that's
So
definitely valid.
Yeah, so I'll just quickly kind of, just give one more point. And then I think as you're obviously hiring strategy changes, I think the next thing you need to look at is your internal equity, right?
Yep.
There are many inequities that happen across companies, just many. And I think that 2 things that I think are really important for equity are ensuring that candidates or employees that are from marginalized backgrounds that have the desire to grow their career, okay, have appropriate performance discussions, and when possible, okay, should be moving into positions of promotion and positions of people management. And the reason why I'm saying this, Meena, is because now there's so much more depth that we cannot talk about within the hour. But the reason why I'm saying this is because title, right?
Yes.
Remember, the struggle that we are dealing with, what needs to really be changed in our world and institution, is power and policy.
Yes.
Okay. So right now what we're talking about is policy. But how do you affect power is, think about it. When you have a title change, right, to a title that, let's call it, increases status, you're increasing your power.
Yep.
And when you have marginalized candidates who are in those positions and their realm of power increases, you're giving them greater voice.
Yes.
Right? And so as opposed to having that person who's doing really well in their job sit in that same role for 5 years, and knowing, right? Knowing that they want to move forward in their careers, right? But you're keeping them there. What you're doing is you're actually diminishing their power. And so title change, I think, is important. Okay, it's an important discussion. Every company is going to be different in the way they do it, but it's an important discussion. And I'm not talking about promoting someone after 6 months or 3 months. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about moving the dial when it comes to these things in a positive and professional manner. The second thing I'll say, and then we'll go to this question about students, is pay equity.
Yeah.
Pay equity. If you got 10 directors, and out of the 10 directors, 4 of them are women. 3, let's call 3. 3 of them are women. And out of those 3 directors that are women, all of them are the lowest paid directors. But everybody else is paid higher. You've got a problem.
Yes.
You have a problem, right?
Yes.
And I think when you look at, because remember, we're talking about power. Money is what? Power.
Power.
Money is power.
Yeah.
Because I want to show you something. And this is where I get into diversity economics. It's another conversation. But if you have at the top, if you have only people from the dominant structure, race, whatever you want to call it, that are making all the money, those individuals are going back and investing in their communities, right?
Yes, most definitely.
But the people who are marginalized, that don't have that same economic power, don't invest as much in their community. And we know, especially from people from countries like India or Jamaica or Africa, community is extremely important.
Yes.
And investing in your community is important. And so when they don't have as much to invest in the community, things struggle, even to the point of schools and education. So this is a big topic. So moving that dial to move people into pay equity situations is extremely important when we're talking about breaking down the walls of power, right? You know what I'm saying? So that's extremely important. My last point on this is this. You know, they talk about crime in Black neighborhoods. And they'll say there's a lot of black on black crime. I think black on black crime does not exist. Okay? Because when white people are killing each other, we never call it white on white crime. We just don't. So these things are just made up, right, to conform to this supremacist view. And the reason I mention this is because we always say put a basketball court, right, in there so that they stop drug dealing. Okay? Do you know why they drug deal? They drug deal because they understand that the opportunities that they want, they might not be able to achieve because the system is against them. So instead of putting basketball courts, you know what I suggest? Why don't you give them all scholarships to go to Upper Canada College? Why don't you give them the opportunity, provide 10 scholarships to the highest achieving students in those communities, and give them all scholarships to go to Upper Canada College? And get to mingle with all the children of the CEOs. Right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about change, Meena. I'm not talking about doing the same thing. We got to do something effective. Anyway, I'll ramble on all day. I'll ramble on all day.
Well, that's why we decided to have an hour, and guess what? The time is going real fast, and I'm loving our conversation. But let's break it down into another question. We have this question from Sandeep. Hi, Sandeep. This is the time to collect our inner power and showcase strong demeanor, because these things that had happened in the past and will come again in the future in this way or another. Like when a naive recent grad goes into the job market, he or she has to overcome every obstacle and excel no matter what. I feel that's the way to behave towards these things, that is learn, try, and keep growing. So that's great. That's a great comment. So let's dig in a little deep. I said that I'm going to give you guys 3 tips, but before I give you tips, I would like to ask Dean. Dean, last week I received a lot of messages from newcomers and new grads, and constantly on our stream there is this question: how do I move forward when I don't have relevant Canadian experience? How do I move forward considering I'm a new grad and I don't have any work experience? How do I move forward when there's so much competition? And now it's about, oh, my applications are not even getting a response because of Corona. I know I've said this before and I keep saying it again: Corona or no Corona, job search is job search, and there is only one proper way of job search. You can spend time, make job search a full-time job and send hundreds and thousands of resumes, not going to lead you anywhere. Okay, numbers game is important, but you need to customize it. You need to reach out. So before I get into my 3 tips of the day, I want to ask Dean. Dean, what are some of the tips that you'd like to give to a newcomer, and B, a new grad that is getting into the workforce or looking into getting into the workforce now? And guys, keep your questions coming because we still have 10 minutes.
Yeah. I think there are 2 different discussions. If you're a new grad and you don't have a lot of work experience, but you want to get into the workforce and you're not doing any co-ops or internships in any companies, I think what you really, really need to do is, number 1, especially during Corona, okay? I understand there is a challenge because of Corona. A lot of jobs in various sectors are now gone where they would have been present prior to Corona, which reduces a lot of the chance for you to focus on roles in those areas. But I think you have to be like an investor and realize that when certain industries fall, take your money and invest it in industries that are growing, right? So in the same way, what you need to do is maybe focus your attention as a new grad on organizations and companies that are hiring, on sectors that are hiring, right? And you need to network, reach out, whether it's to recruiters, hiring managers, whoever in those sectors. If you're a software developer as a new grad and that's what you learned in school, or an IT professional, that's what you learned in school, whatever it is, reach out to hiring managers in those sectors, right? And it might take a little bit longer, but and as Meena knows, like, we could do a whole workshop for 2 hours on how to connect and do that stuff. But that is the basic premise of that. If you are an immigrant who came to this country, but you have experience, right, in other countries, if you have multinational experience, let's say you're working for larger companies like IBM or whatever those companies are, try to leverage that to your ability, especially when you're networking. I would reach out to, let's say I worked for IBM as an example, and I know IBM's a national company. I'd reach out to everybody at IBM in Canada and really try to say, hey, I'm just came and I worked for, I'm an IBMer. That's how you have to make it. I'm an IBMer from wherever. And if that doesn't work, look at all of IBM's competitors, right? And network with all of those people. So it's really about making the right connections there. If you didn't come from a multinational company, it's the same strategy, but what you need to do is connect with organizations that are in the same industry, right? Now, again, as I said, I know Corona, some industries have kind of fallen by the wayside, so you might have to look at what parallel industry can I get involved in, right?
Yeah.
So again, we could we do networking 101 and networking 201 workshops, right? And how to positively do that. So, but those are some tips. That I have. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Dean. And for those of you that are watching or might be watching later, the recorded version, I want to let you know that June 7th, which is 2 weeks from now on Saturday, actually, it's not the coming Saturday, it's the week after, Dean is going to be coming to Destination CEO to do a very specialized workshop for LinkedIn and for proper etiquettes of networking. So
actually, Meena, it's June 6th. It's this Saturday.
June 6th. There you go.
6th,
Thank
yeah,
you,
this
Dean.
Saturday. Yes, no problem. No problem.
Thank you. My dates are a little messed up. Blame it on Corona.
No problem. No problem.
Wanted to say something. And, yesterday I had a family reunion with my paternal side of the family, and some of my family members I haven't seen or spoken to in 21, 22 years. So it was fantastic, and everybody got together, and there was there's just so much love, and how's everybody doing? But one topic that everybody talk about and spend most of the time talking about is Corona. So my 80-plus-year-old aunt, my senior most aunt, she said, in the most beautiful and sensible voice, as she's our eldest aunt, she said, we're some of us are meeting after 2 decades, and we've spent more than 70% of our time today talking about Corona. Think about the importance that you've given to Corona. Think about the amount of vibration you've given to Corona. And that's wheeling it into the law of attraction. The more focus you give into something, the more you're going to be looking at that. So I want you to change your focus now. Change your focus into what you want to be. What do you see yourself doing, regardless of Corona? Where do you see yourself in your career? Let's say 6 weeks from today, if you're starting your job search journey today, or if you're a part of Destination CEO, you're starting the journey tomorrow. If you're starting your journey tomorrow, in 6 weeks from now, where do you see yourself sitting? What does your office look like? What does it smell like? What are some of the duties you see yourself doing? Visualize it to the level that it comes running to you. And the 3 tips I was going to tell you: mentally, be strong; emotionally, keep in check; physically, be healthy, because if your health is not in check, then you're not, even if you get your dream job, you're not going to be able to go to work, or you're going to go to work and everybody's going to send you back home because you're not well. So make a commitment to yourself today. Go write it. If you're sitting on your computer table, write it right now and say, on so-and-so date, I see myself doing this particular job, and start writing down, visualizing the minutest detail. Writing it down and making a commitment to yourself is not enough. You need to make a public commitment. You need to let your friends and family know that as of this date, this is what I am going to start my job as. This is the kind of company, this is the kind of things that I'm going to be doing in my job. Why do you make it public? I did this experiment with an entire classroom of students. I had a classroom of newcomer students. We were about 27 of us. And what's been funny is that over the past few years, gauging into this 4 to 6 week program that I run, I would tell students that, oh, you're going to be working on so-and-so date. You're going to be working, getting your offer on so-and-so date. And funny enough, those dates have come true. So, and I always thought, you know what, it's just a fluke. So my students got into the habit of coming to me and asking me, so Meena, from your experience and from your crystal ball, when do you think I'm going to be working? What date am I going to be working? And I said, I would say, this is all crystal ball. It's the journey I'm taking you on. It's the routine that you're following. It's the discipline that you have. And many of them, were like, no, you got to put a date on us. So for the entire class, I said, okay, on the whiteboard, go and write yourself a date when you're going to be employed. And you will not believe it. Every single one of those 27 students had their offer either before their date or on that date. And why did that happen? It's because they made a public commitment. And to make that commitment, many of them said to me that the reason why they hustled so hard is because they did not want to let me down and did not want to, feel like a loser in front of their friends. Yes, so coronavirus is happening. It may take a little longer, but if you commit to yourself and you take those relevant actions, you are going to succeed. The second thing, push yourself out of your comfort zone. You know that applications are important. Yes, customize your application, send it out. Like Dean said, make those connections out there. So reach out to people and make those connections. If you're uncomfortable with, so in my program, I say 15 applications, 15 connections. Uncomfortable with doing that, make one connection a day. Send out one email a day to somebody that you've never spoken to before. And just let them know how you're feeling and who you are and what you can do for them, right? And the third thing, reflection, right? Reflection, because when you get rejected or somebody rejects you, don't automatically react. Don't automatically get angry, get upset, start crying, whatever. Rejection is a tough place to be in, right? Just step back one step and think, why did you get that rejection? What is it in their message that they're trying to convey to you? Wear their shoes. And once you've reflected, and sometimes I say, I don't make case. I'm known for making impulsive decisions. I mean, I knew my husband 2 weeks before I got married, and it was a love marriage. But that's another story. Anyways, step back for a minute, sleep overnight, reflect on the situation, and then respond and move forward. Repeat, pivot. That's the only way to move forward. Okay. So, wow, that was a lot. The next time I see you back live is on the last call with Leo and Sally, and they're going to be talking about how the workplace has changed over this corona period. So stay tuned, come back. Oops, I noticed there's some questions that just jumped in. Okay, Dean, do you have to get out or do you have 2 minutes?
I can do 2 minutes, it's fine.
Okay, so very quickly, love this topic. and your segment. But my question was, as Canada is known for diversity and its anti-discrimination laws, is the college and university environment more inclusive and friendly? As I know you're a professor at Humber College, you would deal with this. Yes, they are extremely friendly and they do everything possible. So thank you. Okay, these were just comments. So thank you for those beautiful comments. All right, so any final thoughts, my friend?
First of all, Meena, again, the impact that you're having in the community, especially for newcomers, it's unmatched, and really appreciate you having me on the session. Thank you. And to anybody who's on the session, one of the things I just love and enjoy doing is connecting with you. And so if I'm not connected with you on LinkedIn, this is an open invitation to connect with me. Be glad to network with you and learn from your experience as well. So that's an open invitation to connect with me.
Thank you so much, Dean. I really, really appreciate it. And like Dean said, open invitation to connect with both of us. We're both going to put our LinkedIn links on the stream. If you've come this far, please connect with us. And I'll see you back again on Wednesday. I've asked you a question. Are you ready? Are you ready to make a difference? Are you ready to make a change? If you are ready to make a change, you know the Destination CEO is starting their cohort tomorrow. Today is the last day to take advantage of the special 85% off prices. It's literally $10 a day. It's really, really feasible. Lots of content, lots of experts, lots of mentors. So if you need to talk, just direct message me. But this is Meena from Destination CEO thanking you for joining us. And Dean, thank you so much, so very, very much for having this really important, impactful, timely conversation with me. I know that this is not going to end. I know I'm going to have you come back again and again and again. But before I do that, I'm going to see you again on the 6th of June.
I'll see you this Saturday.
This Saturday. Thank you very much. And if you haven't signed up, guys, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just Google. It's YouTube Destination CEO. Thanks. Have a wonderful, wonderful start to this beautiful week.
Bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye.